We are over halfway through the snow season. The first half was pretty good doozy for many of us, especially in central and southern Indiana. I want to show you the snowfall map that we have as of mid-February. So there could be additional accumulation in late February into March, but this hot pink color shows you areas where we have picked up over a foot, and that does include the whole Indianapolis area and then areas farther to the south and east. What's really interesting about this map, though, is kind of the lack of snowfall farther to the north, not all the way to the lake effect snowbelt, although lake effect snowbelt has not done as well this year, but a lot of places in north central Indiana. We're thinking Kokomo, we're thinking Tipton and Peru and Lafayette and Rensselaer, and even east towards Fort Wayne, and then parts of Jay County all the way towards Blackford County. North central Indiana has not gotten very much. I want to show you some of the official snowfall totals as of mid-February. We've got Fort Wayne at just over 11 inches, Evansville over 13 inches, Clarksville just on the north side of Louisville, close to the Ohio River, 15 inches, Indianapolis 16 inches, give or take, and then South Bend 24 inches. South Bend is only about, let's say, 60% of their total snowfall that they should have received already for the winter. So we're going to see what the back half of winter's like. We had a sit-down interview with INDOT to discuss how the first half of winter is gone and have they had to do anything like movement of salt or materials or crews in order to adjust across the state, depending on where these snow systems have taken place. And then we asked them what they are thinking for the back half of the snow season. It feels like it's almost there, but we have a ways to go. What is INDOT thinking as we prepare for the last couple months of snow?
Natalie, Garrett, thank you for joining us today, talking about the second half of the winter season. How would you describe this winter so far?
This winter has definitely been busy. The month of January seemed nonstop at times, especially in the southern half of the state. We had the significant snow event in the first part of the month of January. And there it just seemed to continue. We had those cold temperatures after we got all the snow. Incidents of blowing snow, just because the snow wasn't melting. So it's been a little bit of a marathon season instead of a sprint.
What would you say have been some big wins for you guys as a department, especially for the first half of winter?
Yeah, so the more significant widespread event back in January, that event went well as we could have hoped.
Sure, of course. There's a lot of snow coming down.
Yeah, a lot of snow. It was a long event, multi-day. So, it's a lot on our crews.
So how do the crews kind of handle that when they have such a long stretch? How do you guys try to make sure they're okay?
Yeah, typically crews will work 12-hour shifts, so there will be a shift change at 12 hours. We do our best to take care of our crews, keep that in mind. It's long days for them.
Sure. What would you say may be some specific challenges that you guys have kind of gone through with the winter season as well? We talked about the wind, handling all that snow. What are some things that you're thinking, okay, next year, let's handle this differently or anything like that? We're always looking to improve processes, innovate. We're continuing our relationship with the National Weather Service. We also have a contracted service. So we're looking to continue those relationships. And we also work with Purdue University. Their research group is great, providing us with different data, different potential tools to look at and test during the winter season. So I'm very interested in that Purdue University group. Are they focused more on what is falling from the sky, or is it more how it's interacting with the road? Can you talk a little bit more about how they're helping you?
Yeah, roadway impacts, I would say, is likely the bigger area of focus. So we are working with them to test out automated brining, so treatment application that would, using geofencing technology, so that eliminates the need for the driver to manually adjust application rates or turn it on or off, as they're driving down the road. So more efficient applications and improved safety, eliminates distraction for the drivers.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Is that technology available yet, or is it more in the research phase? It's not quite, you can't buy it yet. What stage is this in right now?
We are testing it out with some of our
tankers in real time. So we're hoping to expand that, once we have some more data, do some more testing.
What are you most excited about that technology specifically?
I think the safety aspect is huge. We obviously want to eliminate distractions for our drivers, and then making more efficient use of our resources and materials is also, could be potentially a cost savings, going forward.
Yeah, that'd be great. So back to this year specifically, if let's say you're meeting with other departments across the Midwest, now everyone's talking about how their winter went, how their winter was. How would you say, if you're talking with them, how this winter has kind of differed in some of these past years that we've had here recently?
Yeah, I keep going back to the event back in January, but it was significant. This was a situation where we had crews from the northern part of the state head south to provide assistance, which typically I feel like it's the other way around.
Sure,
so, the southern half of the state definitely got more snow than they typically see at this point in the season. It was a challenge, but we were up to it, we handled it. It's definitely been a busy season.
Sure. So now that we're generally in let's say the last 2 months of the snow season, although you know as well as I do, you can get these sneaky snows in April and sometimes even May.
Yes.
How are our salt and brine reserves doing right now?
Doing great. Our logistics teams are constantly keeping track of those, replacing any materials as they're used. We're sitting at about 85% capacity statewide, which is good. We're ready for when winter does its thing.
Sure. So some of these locations that have needed more, can you just pour or bring in some from the reserves, or do you ever have to take away from other parts of the state? For example, you're talking about a bunch of northern crews going down. Do they have to bring treatment necessarily with them, or do we have enough in kind of warehouses across the state that we're good?
We have locations across the state that store salt and other materials. We will shift around as needed, but we try to keep, what we need, across the state.
Sure. Did you have to see this year any movement of resources, would you say?
There was some.
Yeah.
I don't think anything significant.
Okay, that's good to know. So let's talk about this year as you guys were preparing. You probably prepare all year long to get ready for winter. Have there been any new strategies that you've tried to implement this year? Is there anything new about this year specifically?
Yeah, I talked about it earlier, but we've really kind of embraced more our relationships with National Weather Service, our contracted service, learning from other states as well. The Midwest states, we see a lot of the same weather trends, maybe not exactly, but learning from them as well.
Sure. And you're talking about that new tech with Purdue. Mm-hmm. How far along are we in the process of maybe implementing that from a whole statewide perspective, or the green lights go, everyone gets it, that sort of thing? What's kind of the time window you guys may be thinking about with some of this new tech for the auto brine?
Yeah, I don't know specifically, when we might see that statewide, but I know that they're working to expand that, as we learn more about the technology, tweak it, depending on what we're seeing.
Is there anything that the state wants to buy or purchase, or a new strategy that they want to have for snow removal?
So we, of course, have our typical plows, plow on the front of the truck. We're using and expanding our fleet of wing plows and tow plows.
Okay,
so
can you describe what those are?
Yeah, so they're similar in nature.
Okay.
It's a regular plow truck,
Sure.
With a plow also out to the side. So there's the one on the front and out to the side.
Yeah.
So you can clear multiple lanes at once. We have more of those up north because
Sure.
They get the lake effect snow, typically higher amounts of snow. So we're looking to expand those, especially as we have more and more multi-lane roadways. We're working to add lanes on our interstates over time as well. So, the more lanes, that's obviously more ground for us to cover. So if we can do it on one pass versus, having multiple trucks or having to make multiple passes. That's more efficient in the long run.
Makes sense. It has been a crazy year, like you were saying, the northern typically getting more of the snow. But when we're looking at these snow maps, there's a hole in some of these places up to the north.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
can the salt treatment that in these warehouses last to the next year okay? Or
Yes,
Okay.
they are. Some of them are, weather controlled. We are, we're monitoring those. Another thing that we're doing with Purdue and working to expand is use of LiDAR technology to monitor or measure the amount of salt that are in our facilities. Previously it was, maybe a little hit or miss in terms
Sure.
of, looking at a pile of salt and saying, we've got about X amount.
Right. That's tough to do.
Yeah. Our people that have been around for a long time, probably pretty close. They've been doing this for years. But with that technology, we can be more exact and know precisely, how much salt we have at any facility at any given time.
Awesome. You were talking about plows. Does INDOT name any of their plows?
We don't.
Okay.
It's not that we haven't considered it.
Sure.
Just haven't necessarily got it off the ground. Can't say for sure if that's something that we'll do in the future, but we've tossed it around.
Yeah, I think the cameras on the plows have been really cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get the road perspective INDOT camera, which is great.
Yep.
Sometimes it's really nice to see those cameras. You literally see the road right in front of you as if you were driving yourself.
Yeah.
That's been really cool.
Yeah, and it's a useful tool, for our, sharing INDOT's message or story or, here's what we're doing. Here's showing people, here's what you're going to be dealing with when you head out on the road, or, here's where our crews are right now.
Yeah. Would you say there's a misconception that Hoosiers have when it comes to treating winter weather, especially during these bigger snowstorms that come through?
Yeah, there are definitely some misconceptions out there. Visit any of the INDOT social media channels.
Sure, no.
Yeah, we receive comments, but I think the biggest misconception, especially on these bigger storms that are longer in duration, continuous snow, is that when someone hits the road, because we have crews out there, the pavement's going to be clear. It's going to be spotless. Not the case.
Sure.
It takes a driver 2 to 3 hours to complete a full route in most cases on average. A driver may come through, make a pass, but between those passes, if it's still snowing, roads are going to become snow covered. And depending on the rate of snowfall, there were places with the January snow that we were seeing an inch or more an hour. So roads between passes will become snow covered. That doesn't mean that we don't have crews out, but with that 2 to 3 hour turnaround time, it may be, a few hours before you see a truck come through again. But that's where our TrafficWise map can come in handy, 511in.org. You can check out plow cams, locations, traffic cameras, so you can see where our trucks are at any given time, and get kind of real-time updates as to what road conditions are, before someone is deciding, should I go?
Sure.
Should I stay? Is it worth it?
Right. I think from the news organization standpoint, your guys' cameras are a great help
Yep.
to live track how the roads are going. You talk about the bigger snows. Sometimes we also talk about as a weather department, the little snows are sometimes the worst ones.
Yep.
Can you talk about some of the challenges with these little snows where it's trying to figure out, okay, are we going to get anything or are we not? How much? Talk about the little bitty snows.
Yeah, it seems like with the smaller snows, sometimes those we can come up, I guess, out of nowhere, I guess you could
Easily,
say.
yeah.
And, forecasts can change quickly. It may look like it's going to do this, but then, it's on top of us and shifts one way or the other. We can see systems coming in that look like it's going to be more impactful, and then it disappears. So it can go either way. But we're constantly monitoring the weather and forecasts, making sure that we're ready, or as ready as we can be.
Yeah. We always get really excited when one of your new cameras goes live.
Yes.
We get to look at it. We actually use it kind of more often there for the first couple of weeks because
Yep.
it's new.
Yep.
Is there an area that you guys are wanting to focus on putting more cameras next, possibly?
We're looking to expand our cameras in general, as well as our dynamic message signs, so the overhead signs above the interstates. Those kind of go hand in hand in some ways, but we're looking to expand our coverage of cameras along our interstates. There are a few non-interstate routes that also have cameras, but we're looking to expand that across the state.
Sure. When it comes to pothole fixing and preparation, is there anything this is the next big thing kind of that we're seeing across different DOTs?
Yeah, so similar to like with winter operations, we're also working with Purdue and other states on just other maintenance techniques. So whether it be different materials that we're looking at and testing, different application processes, things of that nature. This time, what also comes with winter ops are freeze-thaw cycles, which means potholes. We know that those are going to pop up. So when when we're not in the midst of a winter event, crews may be out patching potholes or doing other maintenance activities, getting us ready for that next freeze-thaw cycle or winter event.
Yeah, for sure. I've even seen on some of the streets where I live that they've already filled a lot of the holes. Of course,
Yep.
There's holes all across the state because
Yes.
it's a very difficult time.
Yep.
How is winter maintenance different than maintenance throughout the rest of the year? Do they have to do something different?
Materials, some of those are temperature dependent, so we may use different materials in the wintertime versus what we can use in the summer. Some of the asphalt plants also close during the winter months,
Sure.
just because of temperatures and not a lot of paving going on in the winter. So materials, I think, is the biggest difference in terms of winter versus spring and summer.
Yeah, that is true too, because you can really see them. I
Yep.
was going to ask you, this is a quick question for our morning newscast. A lot of times we are showing traffic and we show you guys' maps. The plow cams are active, or at least they pop up on the map in the morning, let's say on a day where there's nothing going on. Is that just where the locations are where they're going to be stationed?
Yeah, so I believe they become active if the vehicle's moving, I want to say 5 or 10 miles per hour.
Interesting.
So, at a certain threshold, they'll populate on the map. So even if they're out doing, say, pothole repair or,
I
some
see.
other activity, they'll still show up
Got you.
on the map. So, sunny day.
No, that's good to know. We were wondering,
Yep,
what
yep.
are they plowing today? But
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yep.
So speaking of that sunny day, and you touched on it a little bit, it's a quiet week for weather. Let's say any given week. It's a quiet week, sunny, maybe it's warm. We hit records, earlier this winter for warmth. What does INDOT focus on? What are you guys doing on some of these quieter days?
Yeah, so we're working to maintain our fleet. Some of our trucks may need some repairs in between winter events. Washing trucks, believe it or not, is huge. Obviously, they are subject to salt, probably even more so than other vehicles out on the roadway. So washing them to keep them maintained is important. I mentioned pothole patching. Depending on weather, we may be able to get out and do some more intense work depending on what's needed. Bridge work is something that can happen depending on what it is, may not be as dependent on weather or temperatures. So we definitely take advantage of any nicer stretches of weather, especially with higher temperatures, because even things like pavement markings and striping, that's weather temperature dependent.
Sure.
If it's too cold, we can't apply those. So may even get out and take care of any striping needs. It could be many things.
Yeah, still very busy, of course.
Yes, very busy.
So you were talking earlier, the reason why we have a lot of these potholes, all states in the Midwest are getting them because of the freeze and thaw cycle.
Yes.
Once we're done with that, is that when you guys can go full force and start preparing a lot of the roads for the next season?
Yeah, usually once the weather breaks, people will see kind of a patching blitz, I guess you could say. Once the weather turns, we finally get that good weather, we'll be out and about, lots of patching going on. And then, we'll transition to our construction and, more regular maintenance season activities as well.
We're going to kind of wrap up with what you guys have been talking as a team and a department. What are you guys thinking about for the second half of the season? What's on top of mind for the second half?
Yeah, so outlooks are showing average temperatures, potentially above average precipitation.
So you look at a lot of the long-range weather forecasts.
We do. We keep that in mind, take it into consideration. Of course, we know that could change.
Yes.
But, that could mean more snow. It could mean more rain, once we finally get to that point. But we are prepared for whatever it is Mother Nature decides to throw at us. One thing we are, keeping in the back of our mind as we look to spring, if we do have, above average precipitation, that could mean a wetter spring. So then we could be looking at, potential flooding, down trees, especially if we have systems come through with higher winds. So, we're always thinking ahead to the next season and the impacts that can have.
Right. What would you say with the flooding perspective? Is that just washing away roads? Is that one of the biggest threats, or what would you say some of the flooding threats are?
Mainly just, roads being underwater, making sure our drainage systems are clear. We try to go out before a larger rain event, make sure those are clear to avoid those issues. But I think that's the main concern.
Yeah. We're going to wrap up a little bit more about snow removal. What are you guys responsible for? There are a lot of roads in Indiana.
Yep.
What do you guys handle?
Yeah, so INDOT is responsible for state highways, interstates, and U.S. routes across Indiana. So your local street, county roads, those are the local entities. INDOT handles more than 900 snow routes across the state.
Wow. Do you guys have to coordinate with these local highway departments any sort of way, or you guys are very separate? How does that work?
Mostly separate. There may be some coordination in certain areas, and I know in some communities there may be a state road that goes through a community, and it's technically State Road 2, but it's called State Street through town. So definitely understandable how there could be some confusion, at least from the public perspective. But there's coordination when needed with local entities.
The supply itself, is that also separate? Local highways have their own, and then you guys have your own?
Yes.
Okay.
Also separate.
Oh, also separate?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there anything that you guys want Hoosiers to know as we are in the second half of the season? Anything, if you could talk to Indiana, what would you tell them?
Yeah. So, stay weather aware, especially this time of year. If you do have to go out when it's snowing, when, we're seeing those roadway impacts, be safe. Adjust your driving to conditions. Something we like to say is don't crowd the plow. Those are large vehicles. The driver's line of sight can sometimes be obstructed, just the sheer size of the vehicle. So don't get too close, give them space to do their jobs. It's for the safety of the driver, of the plow driver, as well as other drivers on the road. Slow down, buckle up, phone down. That's one of our safety slogans, safety campaigns. So buckle up when you get in the vehicle, slow down, drive the posted speed limit, adjust to conditions, I think is huge.
I really appreciate your time.
Of
I know
course.
you guys are very busy.
Yeah.
Go winter weather, and then even on the sunny days, you've got a lot of work to do as well.
Yep.
So
Appreciate the opportunity.
thank you so
Yep,
much.
thank you.